It's time for a brand new episode of the Bakery Bears video show.
This is our lifestyle show featuring craft, baking, and a little bit of history.
We've got lots of projects to show and one of our special series to share.
What will we feature this time, and which of our projects will be our favourite?
Let's get on with the show and find out.
Welcome, everybody, to a brand new show. Yes, we're back. Oh my goodness, and we're so delighted to be here.
We are. We're looking very springy and bright today.
Yes,
it's fun.
I know. Last time I was trying to...
pink. I love Dan in pink. Isn't it lovely?
Pretty in Pink, eh? Pretty in Pink.
There you go.
I don't think I ever saw that film.
Oh, it's meant to... Me and Bryony watched it one time because it's meant to be one of those iconic films, isn't it? With...
In your world, maybe.
I just don't think it travelled. I think if you watched it when it first came out, yeah.
Yes, we're back for another wonderful instalment of,
very exciting episode.
Very, very spectacular things.
Lots of very fun and very marvellous things.
Later on in the show, we will be getting all Downton Abbey as we enjoy the third instalment of Britain the Stately era. And when I say Downton Abbey, I mean Harewood House. Yeah. Harewood House, that was, of course, a location in the first film.
Yes. Which I liked. It finished, actually. The end of the film was at Harewood, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I really liked the first film, but the second film, no, I did not.
Yeah, and I knew I wouldn't like it, so I refused to watch it.
You didn't watch it?
I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson with Disney's Star Wars. But yes, as you saw in the title of today's show,
yes,
it is the 100-Acre Blanket reveal show.
Yes.
And if you're wondering what we're talking about, well, you're going to find out later on in the show. It is, like, beyond exciting.
I hope so.
It really is, because every year we hold a 3-month event.
Yeah.
It's called our Summer of Stitching. In the centre of that Summer of Stitching, there's always a pattern. And the pattern this year is the 100-Acre Blanket.
Yes.
So all will be revealed later on in the show.
Yeah.
But if you're talking excitement, and if you want excitement, just prepare yourselves. Grip onto the sofa. Because we're starting the show with a pattern launch.
We are indeed.
Can you believe it?
How exciting is this?
So this is a pattern which Kay has been absolutely obsessed with for the last few weeks.
Yeah.
And really the last few years.
I was going to say it is more like the last few years. This is a pattern. It's the short and sweet socks. And this is a pattern that I designed in 2020 for our Knitty You series that we did during that whole time. And I've knit it, I think, 4 times maybe since then. It's just that sort of pattern that just I wanted to come back to time and time again. So I thought, you know what? Why not put it out in the world? You know, I've really enjoyed knitting it. I know that our patrons enjoyed knitting it. So why not get it written up, knit a new sample and put it out as a, you know, anyone can purchase it pattern. So that's what I have done. So here are the finished socks. So this is technically one of my finished items, but we have got others later on. So you're getting a finished item right at the beginning. So here are my short and sweet socks. So for this version, I've knitted these to look like a strawberry, basically. So you can see the design has a little eyelet pattern all over, which is really sweet and really lovely to knit. It's that kind of perfect summer knitting. I've done it as a short sock, but you don't have to.
Summer knits.
Yeah, but I'm also knitting another version of this, which I'll show you shortly. So you can customise this however you want. You know, strawberries, watermelon, or something that I'll show you later. You know, if you want to stay in the fruit theme. But when I originally knitted these, I just used a single tonal skein of yarn. It was a pale sort of pink, and it was an Eden Cottage, I think, and they looked beautiful. And I wore those socks to absolute oblivion. You know, they wore through. I wore them that much. So I then knit another pair. I think I knit another pair for Bryony. in strawberry colours like this. She wore those till they wore through, and then I knit her another pair last year of strawberry socks. You might remember all these. That would be 3. This pair makes 4, and then another one on the needles makes 5. So the fact that I've knitted it 5 times now shows you that it's something that I really like. So yeah, the short and sweet socks, perfect summer knit, is now available to purchase on Ravelry and Lovecrafts.
And it just dawned on me when I was looking at that if you change that colour there to orange, it's like carrots.
Someone said that, yeah. Somebody mentioned that you could also change, have an orange base with the green top and it would look like carrots. I'm sure you could think of lots of other versions of this.
Comment below.
Yeah, what would you knit?
What would your version be?
But you can see, so it's got a standard heel flap and turn, my umbrella toe. I mean, I've done contrasts here for cuffs, heels and toes, and that's how it's written in the pattern. But of course you can do whatever you want to do, You might just want to do heels, you might not want to do any contrast. But I think it's just fun, especially if you're knitting like gift socks for people. If you've got someone who's got a summer birthday, I think giving them a little pair of strawberry socks is just adorable, isn't it?
But also, what a wonderful way to light up your winter by pulling out
your
strawberry socks.
Yeah.
Because that's what you've done.
I have, yeah. I like to knit unseasonably, so I actually enjoy knitting Christmas things in the summer and summer things in the winter. But yeah, so yeah, it's really adaptable and super fun. This yarn I dyed myself. I posted a picture actually of these on Instagram, and a couple of people said they were disappointed they couldn't buy the yarn. I'm sorry that I don't sell yarn anymore, but I have shown how to dye this yarn. If you are someone who likes to dye yarn, I have shown
it was my favourite
colourways.
Linked in the show notes below.
But failing that, you just need a tonal pinky red and a nice leafy green. And, you can get that from numerous places. If you wanted a complete solid, there's Cascade Heritage, there's solid sort of opal colours, there's, a lot of dyers do lots of tonal yarns. So I'm sure if you shop around, you'll be able to find something similar to this. Or, you can do whatever colours you want. Carrot socks if you want to, or watermelon or whatever.
I think
for watermelon, I think this colour would be slightly different. I feel like for watermelon, it's a sort of more deeper reddish. It's sort of a different colour, isn't it? Is it more pink, a watermelon? I'm not sure. But anyway, you can do with it as you wish.
Beautiful.
So yeah, that's the short and sweet socks out now, Ravelry and Lovecrafts, if you want to knit yourself a little pair.
There's got to be a song in Summer Knits, Kay.
I don't understand. I'm not sure how you could adapt that. But
oh, now there's a challenge.
You could give it a go.
She has thrown down the gauntlet. I did it once with Never Gonna Knit You Up.
Oh, yes, so you did.
We won't go back to that.
No, let's not.
Oh, no. I told you it was going to be an exciting show.
Starting
my goodness.
it with a little pattern launch. That's
and a gorgeous
fun,
one
isn't it?
at that. I mean, just...
Yeah, I mean, these are for me. I'm keeping these. These are going into my sock stash. I think this is pair number 4 for my sock stash.
Brilliant.
And then I've got another pair on the go, which I'll show you in a minute, and that would be pair number 6. And then another finished thing later. That will be for me as well. So I think I'm on about 7 pairs.
Look.
For my sock stash.
With all this knitting talk, I think it's high time, because I have a feeling... Oh, yes. Now, remember, Pick of the Projects.
Oh, Pick of the Projects.
Coming later on in the show. I mean, the excitement just keeps rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, part 1, Britain the Stately Era, and then Pick of the Projects. Before all that, though, I shall say, because I have a feeling you're going to keep rolling with the...
I may be.
Kay Jones, what's on your needles?
So yes, let's continue along the short and sweet theme, shall we? While
it's a different colour.
Pop on another sock onto this blocker here.
Now, I like that a lot.
So I showed you last time some yarn I dyed. I don't know if you can recall or if you watched that one. But I wanted to knit a version of the short and sweet socks with a more blackberry sort of theme. You see, blackberry is perfect because they also have the little seedy things, don't they? So I dyed up some yarn. And I showed it you last time in the skein, but it's caked up now because I've actually finished a sock. I'm on the second one. That's how quick these are. And this is the yarn that I dyed up. So you can see it's these sort of rich blackberry colours. There's quite a lot of blue in there because I do think blackberries do have a sort of blue hue to them as well, depending on their stage of ripeness. So it goes from kind of these purplish, reddish colours to lots of different blues in there. And this colourway, actually, I dyed up and we filmed, and it's a special Patreon tutorial. Welcome everybody to a very special tutorial. So today I'm going to be dyeing this lovely skein of yarn. Okay, so what we're going to do is get the yarn into my pots. So we're going to start with the russet, and this colourway is lots of layers going on, and just give it a good old sprinkle around. You can see the sort of red it is now. So I'm just going to lift it up. So you can see at the moment it's a very red, beautiful actually, variegated skein. So about 1/2 teaspoon. And we're going to do the same thing. Just move it around in ribbons and you can see it almost looks like we're putting black onto the yarn. And then give it a nice push. Do you know, imagine you've just got a bunch of blackberries and you have crushed them, or you're making jam. And sometimes blackberries do lean a little bit red, don't they, where they've not fully ripened. Here is the finished skein. Oh, and isn't it lovely? I can't wait to start knitting this.
I mean, beyond exciting.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it when Kay said, how do you fancy?
Let's just film it.
Let's do a Patreon exclusive.
Yeah.
A bit like my favourite colourways,
yes.
But it's a whole different production.
Yes,
I need to send it to you. You've not even seen it, have you?
I haven't seen it, no. I don't tend to watch my own stuff, so that's fine.
Don't worry, your face isn't on it.
Oh, right, that's cool. Don't mind watching if I don't have to look at myself.
Kay's chosen way of broadcasting. With a bag.
Yeah, that would suit me really well. Actually, over my whole body. That would be perfect.
A large sack. Yes.
Yes.
You silly.
I'd feel lovely.
It's Blackberry Crush, isn't it?
Blackberry Crush.
Amazing.
So, yeah, you can dye up this colour as well.
6th of May, I think it is. 6th of May.
Oh, 6th of May, that's
available for Baker Road patrons to watch, part of the tutorials.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've finished one sock. The only difference, I'll show you the sock. So here it is. How fun is that?
It is.
It's the same green. The same green that I used for the strawberry ones, but isn't it funny how it sort of looks different? It's exactly the same green.
Does that look darker?
It's exactly the same. Like, I dyed them together in the same pot, so I think it's exactly the same.
That's amazing.
But it just reads slightly differently, I think, depending on what you pair with it.
Yeah.
Pair. Could you do pair colours?
You'd have to change the top then, wouldn't you?
You'd have to change the top, yeah.
Do it like the stalk, a bit browny.
Yeah. So, yeah, here is my first blackberry version of the short and sweet. The only difference for this one is I wanted to put in my butterfly heel, which is what I've done here. This heel isn't in the pattern, but I have included it in several of my designs in the past. I first did it in the lattice top socks, I believe it was. I've since put it into the fairground socks. I believe it's in the rumple socks. So it is in several of my designs. And I've got the second one on the needles and the leg is done. I'm just about to start the heel. I really love these colours and I think it's so nice to have a sort of more autumnal looking pair. You see, we're in spring and I'm knitting autumn socks. It's definitely my thing. I really enjoy, as I've just said, really enjoy doing that.
I enjoy knitting anything that's got an autumnal feel, I'll be honest.
Yeah, I really don't knit seasonably. And it's funny because I know people read seasonably as well.
Oh, no.
I know that Miranda's mentioned a lot of that, Miranda Mills. She likes to read books that are set, so like in winter, read wintry themed, you know, set in winter and summer and the same sort of thing.
I don't like to put parameters on the books I want to read.
No, I mean, I never think about that. And it did make me think, do I do that? I don't. And, you know, quite often I will listen to Winter Solstice in the summer and I'll listen to it all year round, let's face it. I don't even think about, oh, this looks autumnal, I shouldn't be knitting it now. I mean, do you do that? I think it's an interesting point, isn't it? You know, do the seasons affect the way that you knit and the things that you knit? It's not something I've really ever thought about before. Do you ever think about that? Because you just knit jumpers all year round.
I think that I learned probably over the last 5 or 10 years that the worst thing you can do in anything in life is put parameters on yourself, because all it does is then restrict the things that might make you happy. And I was always really stupid when it came to Christmas.
Yeah, that's right, you were.
And a lot of other things too.
We couldn't like put up the decorations. We couldn't watch Christmas films before the 1st of December. We couldn't.
Just
you were like,
do what makes you happy.
You haven't been like that in the past few years. You've just like whatever, do whatever.
Do what makes you happy.
Yeah.
Because otherwise,
I agree.
You're restricting happiness. So
maybe it's as you get older, you just think do whatever makes you happy.
And the worst thing,
if you want to watch a Christmas film in June, watch it.
And read whatever book you want whenever you want.
Read whatever book you want whenever you want.
Because imagine, you pick up this book and you think, oh, that looks really good, and then it's the middle of the summer and the book's set, and then you think, oh, I can't read it.
Maybe you don't think it. Well, maybe you just, if it's a choice, maybe you think, oh, I'm going to save that because I want to read it when the season is whatever.
I think that's
problem fair for me, enough, isn't it? But if you do have that thought in your head, then maybe it subconsciously is restricting you. It's an interesting thought, isn't it?
Less restrictions, more freedom.
Yeah, I just tend to just knit whatever I want. I don't really think about the yarn. But anyway, lovely blackberry short and sweets on the needles. I'm going to get these ones finished, I'm sure, in super quick time. This one, actually, I remember I picked this up one day and I thought, ooh, I might just see how long it takes me to finish it. And I was at the heel, so I was at this point. And I finished it within, I think it was a day and a half. I didn't knit anything else. I thought, I'm just going to knit this sock and see how long it takes me. So I knit the heel, all down the foot and the toe. And, I'd got it done by the following afternoon. So I think that just shows you as well, if you put your mind to something and if you do have something that you want to get done, just say to yourself, right, I'm putting everything else aside. I'm just going to knit this. And then you can get it done in super quick time, I think.
Yeah, you can.
But I love these. I haven't blocked this one yet. I'll do it when I've finished them both. So really enjoying it still. Pair number 5, really enjoying it. I will definitely knit more of this pattern. It's just that kind of a pattern that it's sort of vanilla but not, which I think is just perfect, isn't it? That's my perfect type of thing to design as well. So Dan Jones, what's on your needles?
Well,
you've got nothing here.
I have a confession to make.
You've left it somewhere else.
I forgot to bring my knitting. So
where is your knitting?
With the power of television, can you click your fingers?
Oh, I don't know if I can.
Have a try. Look at that. I have my knitting.
As if by magic.
I am knitting a pair of socks, and this is a finished one, as you probably guessed, considering it's on a blocker. Now, this is the Snow Forest socks.
Yes.
I got the name right.
I got it right this time.
I think the last time I showed them, I may have called them the Flurry socks. No. Oh, who cares? Look, I got it right this time. I won't say another name, otherwise I'll get confused again. But the yarn is just gorgeous.
This is the yarn that I dyed up for the first part of My Perfect Socks. And I'll show you the other side, because this pattern, the Snow Forest, it's one of mine, and it has a lace design that runs down one side of the sock. So this is the right sock because it's on the outside of your foot, and then the left one is on the outside of your foot. So it's got this lovely lace pattern. Kay just said to me, you are doing the left sock now, aren't you? That was really cool. Yeah, I know. But look at the yarn. Isn't it lovely how it dyed up? Imagine if I did 2 right socks. Well, I can imagine that, which is why I asked. Would you be able to wear them, or would you be like, I can't wear these? Probably not. So what was this colourway for the first You've Got Mail? I can't remember off the top of my head. Can you remember the first one? No, but you're asking because it's 6 episodes ago. I know. But it was the first colour for You've Got Mail that I dyed up. And it is gorgeous. Just knit up beautifully. I think it's so nice to see a full sock knitted up, isn't it? And I kept saying every time I dyed the yarn, I want to knit a full pair of socks in this. I haven't got round to doing that yet in any of the colours, but Dan has. So that's the first sock. Yay for you. Yay for me. Yes, that's. I love that. Yeah. I think it's the first time anyone's ever said that. Yay for me. I feel like I need to check that is the left sock that you knit. It is the left sock. Right. So this is the first sock, and here is the second sock. Yay! Look at that. I mean, come on. And do you know what? I'm thoroughly enjoying knitting it. And that's good. I nailed the gussets. Yeah, they look really good on this one. They do look really good. With no help. I had no help. I wanted to stretch out the pattern to show you, look. So pretty.
I had zero help in the
It's very good.
picking up of the gusset stitches.
Yeah.
And it was, I think the pattern, because I found it easier to pick them up. I don't know why.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm just getting better. That's probably it.
Yeah, maybe
it's probably just
practice. It's like anything, isn't it?
Well, I've been focusing more on it, and I've used that tutorial a couple of times just to sort of double check the technique. But
you've put in a heel flap and a turn with this, but I think the pattern has an afterthought heel, I seem to remember.
It also had a contrast heel, but I forgot to do that.
You forgot to do it, actually, yeah, which is a good thing because I wanted the yarn.
You stole the yarn.
I wanted the yarn for something.
So I was going to do an afterthought heel, but when I came to use the yarn, Kay had stolen it.
Yeah.
No, that's not true.
No.
I'd already forgotten.
You had forgotten, and then I remembered you hadn't used it, and then I went and stole it.
So you nabbed it.
Yeah, but it's beautiful colour for spring as well. Absolutely perfect. Just so lovely.
I would say that the next pair of socks that I knit, I definitely learnt that I don't get bored because there is pattern all the way down. That because there's no straight knit rounds.
No, you've always got something to do, and it's just on one little bit. So for Dan, the way that he splits it, because he's on double points.
You checked, didn't you?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
It's just on one needle here, which is really good, isn't it? So you know that your patterning is on one needle and then you just zip around the others. When you're on magic loop, you just need to put 2 markers in between and then, yeah.
First time I knit them, I was doing the pattern on the first needle. Second time I knit them, I'm doing the pattern on the second needle. So I'm thoroughly enjoying knitting these socks. The yarn is gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to getting them finished and seeing them on Kay's lovely feet.
That'll be another pair of socks for me.
Yeah, I know. You can add them to your sock stash if you like. No, you can't do that.
No, I can't because I didn't knit them.
I'll add them to my sock stash.
Just save them for Christmas or something, for a present for me.
Yes. What else is on your needles?
I've got another pair of socks. It's very sockish, this episode, but then it becomes unsockish a bit later on. So in my lovely bag, this is a lovely bag actually from Emma at Eldenwood Craft. I bought this a while ago, and I remember seeing this fabric and thinking, I have got to have that bag. And luckily I got one. The fabrics that she uses, they're heavier weight, not usually than sort of quilting cotton. This one feels more like something you'd make. Not curtains, it's not as heavy as that, but maybe like soft furnishings. It's just so lovely, and it's like an embroidered finish. Lovely bag. So in my lovely bag, I've got a pair of socks for Dan. Now, I'm going to have to do a bit of ripping back, I think, for this sock. Let me tell you about it first, and then I'll explain why, because I did a little experiment, and it's fine, but it's not quite perfect. So I'm knitting a pair of socks for Dan using... this is the yarn. I'll show you the yarn first. It's West Yorkshire Spinners, and it's their pheasant colourway. It's the variegated. And then the complementing blue is another one of their yarns, and it's Pacific. So the solid is Pacific, and the variegated stripy one is Pheasant. So I bought this recently because me and Dan had a walk recently around Jervo, Abbey. And it's just my favourite walk ever. And there was loads of pheasants everywhere. And I said, you know what? I'm going to order you some West Yorkshire Spinners pheasant, because I was aware of the colourway. And I'm going to knit you a pair of socks to remind us of this walk. So that's what I'm doing. And it's going lovely. I'll show you what it looks like on the front of the sock, and then I'll explain why I'm going to rip back. Because I've actually knit loads. Look. So here's what it looks like. I'm knitting my crunkled pattern, which I think just looks fantastic in this yarn. So here's the pattern here on the top, and then this is the back of the sock. Let me just turn the heel down. That's how it knits up normally. Isn't it lovely? It's all those sort of pheasanty colours. And this blue matches one of the stripes perfectly. Now, what I wanted to do an experiment of is whether my butterfly heel would fit Dan's foot. I had my doubts. This heel is brilliant for me. I knit it for me all the time. I've already mentioned it's in one of my other socks. Bryony's worn it. She doesn't even know the difference with heels. She'll just put them on her foot and they're fine. But Dan's feet are particularly unusual. He has a a really wide foot, a really long foot, and in particular the distance, you know that distance, it's your instep, isn't it, from the back of your heel across to the front of your foot, where like your gusset decreases cover. It's extremely wide, and I wasn't sure that this heel would suit, and to be honest I don't think any other heel apart from a standard heel flap and a turn would fit his foot anywhere near. So I got him to try this on, and it went on, didn't it?
Yes.
It went on his foot, and he said, well, it feels all right. But I could see that the heel was really stretched, and across that instep was really stretched. And I said, it's just not going to wear very well. So what I'm going to do, sadly, I'm going to rip all of this back. There's a lot of work in this, because it's 72 stitches for Dan's socks. The heel was obviously bigger in terms of, you know, how long that took me. So I'm basically going to rip back to the leg here and do a standard heel turn and gusset and all of that business. But it's knitting up lovely. You know, I love the colours. But you see, again, this is quite autumnal, and that brings us back to the seasonal knitting thing, doesn't it? It didn't cross my mind until this moment. It was quite autumnal. But I love the way the pattern looks, the crinkle pattern. So brilliant with these sort of stripes. So yeah, I'm just going to be ripping this back and doing a standard heel flap and a turn. But what I might do, I think, actually, is, because I feel a little bit bruised that I've got to rip this back, I'm going to rip it back, and what I might do is I've wanted to knit Dan a pair of DK weight socks for a while, because I think that would be a really good weight for him. Because I've found that fingering weight socks they don't last as long with you at all, do they? I'm talking about you as if you're not here, but they just don't last as long as they do with like me or Bryony, because of the, you know, he's quite hard on his socks, let's say, and they just wear through really relatively quickly. So I'm thinking DK weight socks might be good, because all through the sort of colder months you've been wearing the thicker ones I've made you over the years, which I think generally have been more like Aran weight. I've had a look at them, so I think DK weight might be a good thickness to wear when it's not really warm, and then that way you can sort of keep his fingering weight socks for the warmer days and he's not wearing them as much. So I'm going to have a ponder on that and think about what yarn I might use. So maybe next time you might see a DK weight pair on the needles for him, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I think I've learnt through the wearing of the Letalopi jumpers is, for some reason in my head, I always used to perceive that the thicker the yarn, the warmer it was. And I've found that actually isn't the case at all. And especially when you're dealing with really good yarn, it tends to sort of be warm when you need it to be warm and cool when you need it to be cool. I don't know if that's a thing, but it certainly seems... Well,
wool does have that property, doesn't it? So, I mean, you've not found you've been overly warm wearing those thicker socks?
No, I haven't. And
they're
I started,
much thicker. Yeah. Like I said, they are Aran weight. Luckily, I think you've got 3-4 pairs maybe that I've made you.
Is it the Regia one? Is it
the Regia? I've used a Regia yarn. I used a West Yorkshire Spinners that you can't get anymore. It was fantastic. It's my favourite. It was an Aran weight, and it was self-patterning like this. And they don't make it anymore, and it was 75-25. It was just the most brilliant yarn. And like I said, they do a DK weight now that's 75-25, but not Aran. And I loved that Aran weight. I can't remember the name of it, but they don't do it anymore. So,
well, it's those Regia ones that are like rock solid.
The Regia ones are really good. Yeah.
I mean, I've had them ages.
Yeah.
And I've worn them a lot.
Yeah.
Granted, it's been spasmodically up until now, but they seem to be going great. The only ones that aren't wearing well are the stripy ones.
Oh, right. I think they were opal.
Right.
I think they were opal. I'm not sure.
It's sort of slightly pastel-y. I can't
remember.
Anyway,
it's
that one isn't wearing
ages. Yeah, it's years. It's years since I've knit those.
Why do I feel like you might have said that they don't have any nylon in when you were looking at them? Because I think you spotted that they were starting to wear through a little bit. And I think you've knitted them as out and out sort of bedtime socks.
Oh, I don't know. I'll have to have a look at them.
So anyway, the long and short of it is they've been brilliant.
Yeah, so I am just wondering now if knitting DK weight socks will be good for him because you wear the Aran ones in your shoes, so DK won't be a problem for you, and they will last longer. And I would only need to cast on 64 stitches instead of 72 because I know proportionally when I knit DK weight socks for me, I use 56 stitches instead of 64. So I go down a size, effectively down a stitch count. So I think I've never knit DK for Dan, but I'm pretty sure I could knit 64 stitches and it would come out the right size, which means they would knit quicker, be brilliant. So I'm in the middle of sort of deciding what to do about that. And in the meantime, I'm just going to rip this back to the cuff. I've got a cuff knitted then. And then I will pick that back up and probably just keep it like for bedtime knitting in it. I'll just tick along. But I'm excited to try DK weight for you.
Yeah. I think
I think it might be the solution.
Yeah, well, I think it is as well. And it's been a real surprise for me because I just always thought that you had to put on your thin fingering weight socks in the summer. Yeah. And I'm starting to wonder if actually the thicker weight socks end up being more airy. They let more air in because they tend to have that each stitch is bigger.
I understand what you're saying.
Is the fabric denser on?
No, I don't think. I knit DK weight socks on it using a 3.25mm, which I think some people would use a slightly larger needle, but I do like a denser gauge with DK weight. And I think on that, from memory, when I've made DK weight socks, I think I get about 6.5 stitches to the inch, something like that.
Right.
So what's that? 6, 12, 18, 24. It's about 26 stitches to 4 inches.
Right.
So I think that's a decent gauge for DK, knit to a tighter gauge. I think a DK weight gauge normally for a jumper, for example, might be around 18 to 20 stitches. So that is a nice snug gauge. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I do have some DK yarn in my stash, sock yarn. So I might just pull some out and cast on a pair and just, I'll show you next time.
And will you do those magic loop, or do you think you'll do those on DPNs?
I'd do them DPNs because... Why? Can you remember I knit 2 pairs of DK weight socks for me at the back end of last year using the Drops Fiesta that I got obsessed with, and it's actually the Drops Fiesta that I've got in my stash. So I might end up using that. And I knit those using 3.25 DPNs, and it's the higher bamboos, and was it Chowgoos? Might have been Chowgoo. I think it was Chowgoo bamboo. I'll have to dig them out. But anyway, it was wooden needles. And the combination of DK weight with wooden needles for me, it just, I don't know, it was like, I just loved them. And I knit 2 pairs, didn't I, really quick.
So do you think some yarn,
those.
It works better with wood and some works better with metal? Is that what you're sort of alluding to?
No, I think it's the thickness for me. Because I tend to prefer knitting fingering weight socks using magic loop and DK weight socks using double points. Right. But wooden double points are my thing.
Right.
I will use metal, but I much prefer wooden. Right. I find that with wooden as well, because there's a bit of grip, I find that where you swap over your needles, you get a really good join. I don't get any laddering. And I think if you are worried about getting laddering using double points, try using wooden, because that bit of grip, I think, helps you get a really snug join, because metal's slippy, isn't it? Particularly if you get like higher double points. I mean, they're so slidey. Chowgoos are good because they're more a brushed coating rather than polished. So Chowgoo metal do have a little bit of grip. But yeah, if you're new to double points and you're struggling and you're using metal, I would say try some wooden ones, and you might find that solves your problems.
That's really interesting there that you're saying the weight of yarn.
Yeah,
and the type
I love
of needles.
DK, and I think it's just, and that 3.25mm for me is the perfect size.
Right.
3mm I feel like would be too small. I feel like I'd be struggling. I think it'd just be a bit too tight. Depends on how you knit. If you're a loose knitter, you might have to do that, It depends on your gauge, doesn't it? But for me, I'm a sort of middle of the road tension person, I would say. I don't think I'm super tight. I don't think I'm super loose. I think I'm just somewhere in the middle. So that just works for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right. It's time to continue our first historical adventure series of 2025.
Wow.
Yes, if you didn't realise, you did hear that right. First historical adventure series of 2025. More about that coming later on this year.
Yes, indeed.
This time, in Britain the Stately Era, we get all Downton Abbey because we're visiting a house which offers a unique perspective into the British stately home. And that is, there is an upstairs and there's a downstairs.
It's brilliant.
If you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about, all will be revealed. So let's sit back and watch the latest episode of Britain, the Stately Era.
Welcome to modern Britain. These are scenes many of us will know all too well. The question is, how did we get here?
Society did not arrive here by chance. If we look back through history, we can pinpoint moments where decisions were made, often by the smallest demographic of people, that led us to a point where the modern world would thrive.
King Alfred the Great defeated the Vikings in the 9th century. The castle's arrival in the 11th century. The dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century.
But there's just one event that set Britain on course to where she stands today.
That event brought about the birth of modern journalism. It inspired the construction of a navy which would in time deliver an empire, but also win a world war. And most importantly, it gave the country a government and a monarchy which remains to this day.
But it starts at a time when we had no monarchy at all. This is the story of the English Republic, an earth-shattering period in history which saw the end of the castle and the end of all powerful kings and queens. This was the first chapter of the modern world that we all now live in, and it was set against an architectural revolution, one that would deliver the homes that the new people in charge would live in. Welcome to Britain, the Stately Era. Welcome everyone to Harewood House, the next destination in our exploration of the English stately home. This is an absolutely spectacular place. But before we get started with its story, let's remember all that we discovered in the last episode of Britain, the Stately Era.
We visited Benningborough Hall and discovered its place in the evolution of the stately home. we met King Charles II of Scotland and found out about his ill-fated reconquest of England. And we told the story of the rise of Oliver Cromwell, who overthrew the democratically elected government and installed himself as king in all but name. The land of opportunity, which so many had fought for in the English Civil War, where anything had once seemed possible, now had become a dictatorship. In this episode, we'll visit the gorgeous Harewood House and discover more about the evolution of the stately home. We'll start to tell the story of Oliver Cromwell's New England, which he called a protectorate. And we'll visit Harewood's Church, where we'll find out that at the heart of all this turmoil was continued fear and confusion over religion. But before we do that, let's head out into the Harewood estate for a little explore, as we start to find out a little bit more what it was like to live in this period of history. Now, we've covered a lot in this series so far, but one of the things that I just love to do is to try and work out what it was like to live in a particular period of history. And this really was one of the most tumultuous times ever. James I had been accepted rapturously. His son had then been disposed of violently. The Civil War had then caused death and bankruptcy and upset all across the country. And now riots too, religious riots on the continent, made this one of the most challenging times to live in ever. But there have also been great positives. The plague, for example, has virtually disappeared from British shores, and trade is expanding fast into the Far East. Scientific thinking is also on the rise, which will lead to some great medical breakthroughs in time. Professionalism also enters many walks of life. We're just really starting to see the life many of us would recognise today begin to bloom. Up until this moment, there's really only been two types of people, the haves and the have-nots. And let's just say 90% of the population had not. That is, though, until this moment in history, because it's right now when a new demographic of people appeared, the middle classes. And they'd arrived at just the right time too. Tea, coffee, chocolate, exotic fruit, fine wine and new medicines all appear in this century. After the old world was washed away with the destruction of the castles, today's world rushed to fill the void it left behind. This is an era full of surprises, and it really must have been quite something to live through. But right now, the year is 1653, and all that good stuff is just around the corner. What was life like right in this moment? Well, we would have probably lost multiple members of our family in the Civil War. If we'd survived the Civil War, we probably would have lost our career, a lot like Gerald Winstanley, who we met in our last episode. The castles, which once stood proud all across the country and would have given us an immense sense of pride, had now all been destroyed. And worst of all, the laws that we were living by were absolutely brutal. Every one of them had been developed with the Bible at its heart. It's what we know today as Puritanism. The Adultery Act is a great example. Anyone found guilty of adultery was to be hanged. This was the fate of Susan Bounty of Bideford, Devon in 1654. She pleaded her case and was allowed to live in jail until her baby was born, and then she was hung.
And now, worst of all, the democratically elected government that the country had fought so hard to get has now been got rid of, and it's been replaced with a dictatorship. Now, the new regime's spin doctors dressed it up a little bit and called it a protectorate, but rest assured, only one man was in charge, and his name was Oliver Cromwell.
Cromwell decided that each region of the country would be controlled by a major general. A sophisticated spy network was employed to make sure the public toed the line. The spy network was operated by a central intelligence agency based in London. Sport was cancelled, acting was made illegal, Christmas was strictly off limits. The people of the new protectorate were starting to feel the effects of their new government profoundly. The actions of the major generals drove a wedge down the centre of the country. Even those who had supported the Civil War now started to long for the days of old. At the height of the now demolished Commonwealth, the country had felt close to healing. Now the insults pointed at those who had supported the monarchy began to fester, and the day was drawing near when they would wreak their revenge.
Welcome, everyone, to All Saints Church, set in the heart of the Harewood estate. Now, this is actually the oldest building that still remains intact on the estate. It was constructed in 1410, and it was commissioned by Elizabeth and Sybil de Olberg, who lived at the nearby Harewood Castle.
When the Normans arrived in 1066, they brought with them the castle and a devout Christian faith. Wherever they built a castle, there was normally a church nearby. As stately homes started to replace castles like this that we see here at Harewood, the churches remained, often receiving a makeover so it matched the architecture of its new accompanying stately home. Now, just a short walk from this castle lies All Saints Church. Whilst it dates from 1410, it replaced an earlier church, which had probably been built around the same time as the castle, and the history doesn't stop there.
Because hidden away in this rather beautiful church are pieces of Anglo-Scandinavian Christian sculpture. Now, that's Viking to you and me, and that leads historians to believe that this is perhaps the third church on this site, and that would mean that people have been coming here to worship for over 1,000 years.
Now, I would have loved to have shown you that Viking sculpture, but sadly it was stolen from the church in 2015. Pictures are rare, but this is it. What you see is a carving of a boar hunt. This large stone fragment was found close to the church in 1981. What we're looking at is part of the shaft of a monumental cross that once stood nearby, and it dates from around 900 AD.
But the year is 1653, and the question on my mind is what's going on with the Church of England at this time?
Through the reign of Elizabeth I, the Church of England as we know it today had started to take shape. Certain Catholic traditions had been upheld to create a warm and welcoming environment. But the Puritans, who now governed the country, believed that those practices were immoral, so they were disposed of, often violently. The bishops and senior leaders of the church were also removed, but parish churches, like All Saints, remained. Without any clear direction, congregations started developing their own beliefs, and new strands of Christianity started to become established. Many remain with us to this day, like the Baptists. Oliver Cromwell had risen to the top of society on the back of these new Christian groups, claiming divine guidance. As he formed his protectorate government, he made sure senior members of each of those new strands of Christianity were represented. He quickly realised, though, that men like this would stand their ground, and he couldn't get his way, so as fast as he invited them in, he dismissed them. Cromwell had made a grave mistake. The men he'd chosen were furious. Where they and their congregations had once championed him and his God-given mission, now they were convinced he was an imposter. Into the fray stepped a young woman whose visions related exactly the story they wanted to spread. Anna Trapnell spoke out against the laws of Cromwell's protectorate, and she fought for many things, but specifically, she fought for the rights of women in a world that was governed by men. She spoke with clarity and conviction, and people really listened to her. So it was decided she would be taken on a tour around the country in the hope it would inspire the people to rise up against the tyranny of the protectorate. What would Oliver Cromwell do about this? We'll find out in part 2. We'll also get inside Harewood House for an explore of a truly spectacular stately home. So for now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later on in the show with more Britain, the stately era.
What a start! What a place! Harewood, perfectly.
Just beautiful.
Better than any stately home I've ever been to.
Really?
Shows you the transition between castle and stately home.
Yeah.
Because this is exactly what this period of history is all about. All people are doing is moving from their castle on the same estate into their big new stately home. And there it is, all in one place at Harewood. And the church.
It's really old, that church, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
And the original one obviously would have been very, very old.
And Kay said to me, first thing she said to me was, I can't believe they stole that bit of the cross. I mean...
Can you believe that? What are people like?
So someone's got that in a
church?
private collection.
It's despicable, isn't it, the things that people will do?
But I said to Kay, though, it's so great that they didn't. You would have understood it if they'd gone, right, we've got to lock the church. But they haven't. Whilst, yes, in most towns now, churches are locked.
Yeah, you do find
that.
In towns they are, but usually country churches are
open.
And
normally, long may it continue.
Absolutely, Yeah.
What a start, but we've not even got downstairs yet.
Oh, it's marvellous. It's my favourite thing.
Of Mr. Carson.
It's honestly like going downstairs at Downton Abbey, even though, I don't know if you know this, but on Downton Abbey, the downstairs, it's all a set. Because there isn't a downstairs like that at Highclere Castle, which is where it's filmed.
In most places too, they've actually converted.
Yeah, like in Chatsworth, you can't go into the kitchens because that's now used as workshops for various different people who work on the estate. So they're just not there normally.
That's it, the areas don't exist.
No. Yeah, wonderful.
Downstairs, later on in the episode, right now, it's time for the pick of the projects.
Pick of the projects, baby. Everybody.
Who goes first? Normally, it should be ladies first, but Kay's always got a much better pick of the projects than me. So I'm the warm-up act, and then Kay's the main event, and my pick of the projects is the pick of the projects. I mean, just look at it. It is the Sweetheart Cowl, and I am completely in love with this project. It is just gorgeous, and it's gorgeous because I mean, I love the first one. I absolutely did love the first one. But what I'm loving about this one is, for example, this section here.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's just, and what I love about it is, granted, okay, it's not perfect. It's way better than when I did it last time. You can see that specifically down here. But what you can see there is normally with colourwork knitting, if you've got single stitches, they'll disappear because the float is not right in the background. But I think about floats a worrying amount. And so that results then in you getting these perfect stitches and seeing this just gorgeous patterning here. It's completely wonderful. And, I'm looking forward now because last time I knitted it, average to poor, really good. This time, fairly good. So I'm hoping exceptional second time round on these little spotty bits. Marvellousness.
It's really good.
The bottom is just, which will be the top, of course.
It's lovely, and I love the colours. The orangey colour I dyed, and I realised it's sort of similar to my top. If you're wondering what this is depicting, this is a Buccaneers top. It's a Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's their creamsicle colourway. I got this. It is creamsicle.
Yeah, it is. I just love the fact that you're telling everyone it's marvellous. There will be, of course, lots of people who don't know.
You might be wondering who
people
this lovely chap on the front is.
Yeah. It's a Buccaneer.
Those of you in Tampa Bay will not be wondering, I'm sure. But I got this when Mr. Tom Brady was playing for the Buccaneers, which was a glorious time. And I like the Buccaneers. I like their stadium. I like the gun that fires from the boat. It's so cool. And I love the colours of this. Thought it was springy. So just in case you're wondering. But yeah, the orangey does match my top really well. But the colours are just lovely, aren't they?
Yes. And we found what a creamsicle was. It's basically a mivvy, isn't it?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
We looked up what a creamsicle was.
So if you're in the UK or maybe Europe, maybe there were mivvies in Europe.
It's just like a strawberry mivvy, but it's orange on the outside.
So it's orange ice with vanilla ice cream underneath.
Yeah, I want one. It sounds delicious.
To be fair,
we can't get those here.
No, we can't. But I do sort of really like the strawberry.
I like the strawberry version, but I would like to try the orange one.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it would be delicious.
Refreshing is what it would be. It would cut through, wouldn't it? The acidity of the...
Oh, the orange.
Yeah.
I think it'd be nice. Anyway, beautiful cowl, and I don't blame you for it being pick of the projects. The background colour, that grey, I did for a couple of episodes think that I dyed it.
You claimed it.
I did not. It's an Eden Cottage yarn, so I apologise. I can't remember the colourway. I doubt you've got the tag, have you?
The ticket? No, I don't think I do.
But it's an Eden Cottage, the dark grey, and it's got sparkle in. But I definitely dyed the orangey colour.
It's Pete.
Oh my gosh, you've got it.
Of course I've got the ticket.
What do you mean, course I've got the ticket?
I keep all my tickets, honey.
Oh, if I'd have seen this, I wouldn't have ever claimed it as something I'd dyed. So, yeah, it's the Rosedale 4-ply, and the colourway is Peat. Don't get me started on Peat.
The ticket was in my bag the whole time.
I feel like I could campaign about peat and the use of peat and the way we should not use peat. No. But anyway, gorgeous, gorgeous colours. And I don't blame you, actually. It's a lovely project.
It is, and yeah, it's...
Bryony's excited to have it for the autumn.
For our daughter, Bryony, and I think she's going to love wearing it because it's sort of Star Wars-y in its colours compared to this bag.
Yeah, it's sort of Star Wars-y colours, but also Halloween-y sort of colours.
Yeah, brilliant.
She loves Halloween and autumn and all of that.
Look, no one gives a monkeys about my sweetheart cow because everyone's been wondering why this is called the 100 Acre Blanket Reveal. I shall do a precursor for you.
Okay.
Because, yes, I mentioned at the start of the show, every year we do a 3-month event for our Acre Bear patrons. It's like the summer of stitching because all through the summer there's stitching events happening.
Yeah.
So in the past you've done hand embroidery.
Yeah.
You've done also slow stitching, cross stitch,
knitted things.
But then at the heart of it all, there's always a big knitted project. Last year, Jane's mitts.
Yeah.
And then the beachcomber socks the year before.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, I cannot think how long ago it was because it was ages. Kay had this huge piece of inspiration.
It was last January.
There you go. Wow. So last January, this began. This
project, and it's not quite finished, which is why it can be pick of my projects this time. I'm on the border of the blanket, so it's not quite finished. But yeah, I started thinking about this idea in January of last year. So have I said that right? It's about 15 months that this has been on the needles and that I've been working on this. You know, should I show you the blanket first or should I tell you? No, I think I'll describe my thought process first and then I'll show you what it looks like. So back all those months ago, and for a while actually, for quite some time, I've been thinking about the mitered square blanket. I've always wondered whether it's possible to knit a mitered square blanket but constructed in a different way so that it gives you like a fresh feel for knitting a mitered square blanket and it gives you something different. So it's still got that feel of knitting a mitered square blanket because we all love that, don't we? I've knit so many. But there's lots of new elements to it. And the most obvious new element, you know, from a distance, when you look at this blanket, you might think it looks like any mitered square blanket. But actually, when you look at it, the main difference is that the decrease lines are not like a typical mitered square blanket. So what I've got here just to demonstrate, I suppose, is a little sample. Do you remember this little... I use this as like a sort of desk, not a mat as such, but I do photography and things like this on it. This was all of the colour. No, it's not all of the colours, it's some of the colours that I used in my favourite blanket when I did that series. And I made it into this little piece. So traditionally, you can see on this that the decrease lines all go in the same direction. So they're angled, you know, corner to corner, and they follow each other all the way. I mean, you all know how these things work. And the way that this is constructed is in horizontal rows. And I had sort of two thoughts in my head, you know, is it possible to knit a mitered square blanket but not in horizontal rows, do it in vertical rows? So a little bit like my jelly roll, which is here. This is my jelly roll blanket. It's different to this in that, well, it is knit in vertical strips, but not in the same way that this is knit in vertical strips. So that was my first challenge. Can you construct it in vertical strips? And how would that look? And then going on from there, what would the decrease lines look like if I constructed it in vertical strips? And can I get them to do anything different? And the answer is yes. I can get them to do something different. So I'm going to show you the blanket. I'm on the border now. But when I show it to you, hopefully you'll realise what it is the decrease lines are doing. So this is the blanket. And I hope that you can see in what you're looking at that the decrease lines form zigzags. So it zigzags all the way across the blanket. So it's constructed in vertical strips, but the zigzag lines go across the blanket in horizontal lines. And personally, I've never seen that before. Now, I'm not saying that this doesn't exist somewhere and that someone somewhere hasn't done this, you know, who knows? But personally, I've never seen this before, so it's something that's completely out of my own brain. The other thing with this blanket is I wanted just to sort of look at how the squares meet each other, and can I, in the picking up of the squares, can I make sure that the squares are as square against each other as possible? Because again, when I've knit the mitered square blankets before, you probably can't see this, but there tends to be like a little jog here. So this cream one, for example, doesn't lie completely straight here with the purple one. And I thought, can I look at that and work out a way of making it more square? So I did that. I spent ages and I did that. And then the final thing I did was I looked at the border. And again, traditionally, a lot of people add an I-cord border to things like mitered square blankets. And again, going back to my jelly roll, that's what I did with my jelly roll. This has got an applied I-cord border. So we all know that they're lovely. They do take some time. So again, I thought, right, can I do a border that's sort of got a look of a I-cord border, but is much quicker? And yes, you can do that because I worked out how to do it. And That's what's on this blanket. So I guess I've got the finished blanket, it's nearly finished here. But what I've also got, which shows it a little more clearly, I've got the swatch that I made when I filmed the tutorials, because it's not complicated. It's a mitered square blanket. We all know how they work, don't we? But what I wanted to do in the video tutorials is I just wanted to make sure that I included every bit of detail I possibly could.
Because you've developed a lot of new techniques for this as well.
Yeah, I've developed a lot of new techniques, and it was important to me that I show those as clearly as possible. What you then decide, I say you, I'm talking to our patrons at the moment, what you then decide to do going forward is entirely up to you, because I know that people like sometimes to adjust things and change things to suit themselves. I understand that, but in my videos I wanted to make sure that I produced a set of videos that if you follow them, this is what you will get. This is a little swatch that I made to show all of the techniques. So we started down here, and you go, so it's number 1, 2, 3, and then it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's how the blanket works. You kind of snake your way along. No seaming, obviously there's no seaming. And then when you've completed all your squares, you add the border. So this is not an I-cord border, but I think it's got that little sort of polished finish that an I-cord border gives you. But it took me, I've done 2 sides of the main blanket, I'll show you that in a second, and I think the longer side, I don't know how long it took me, but I got both sides finished in like a day. I wasn't doing it all day, you know, just in the space of a day. 2 sides were finished. And I don't think you could do that with an I-cord border on a great big blanket. So you can see that the decrease lines, hang on, let me again get this the right way around. So it goes zig, 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 like this. You can see I hope you can see the way the decrease lines go. So it zigzags across the blanket. And then the final sort of thing that I looked at was the stitch count, because I wanted this blanket, I wanted the squares to be something that you can knit within sort of 20 to 30 minutes, so that you know that you can sit down, you've got 20 to 30 minutes, and you know you can get a square done. And I think that's a nice little sort of achievement, isn't it? Because some of these mitered squares, if they're a bit bigger, they can take kind of 45, 50 minutes. That's quite a chunk of time, isn't it? And I know that, like this one, for example, to knit this size, you know, it would take me getting on for an hour to knit a square. I didn't want that. I wanted something that was quicker, so that you, like I say, you can just sit down, knit it, boom, you've done it, and you feel like you've achieved something really quickly. So the size of the square is smaller than I've done before. And also, the number of squares lengthwise is 24. So I designed the size of the square to fit in with that as well, because I wanted it to be 24 length. You know, in the lengthwise, it's 24 squares. So that if you wanted, you could use this blanket as an Advent project. Not only for December, you know, for any month you wanted to. Because I know large blankets go over a couple of years, 2, 3 years. So you know that each Christmas you can add a strip. And I think that's really fun, isn't it? So here's here's the great big blanket. And it is quite a large blanket. And that was the other thing. I did want to knit a full blanket. I know that it technically wouldn't have been necessary. And I know that I have seen some blanket patterns where there isn't a finished blanket to look at. It's just a little sort of sample, because then technically, you know, you just go off and make it as big as you want. I wanted to experience what the whole thing was like. I've said this to you before. So I've made a full-size blanket. Now my yarn for the border is still attached, so I just want to make sure I don't mess with that. But here is, isn't it lovely? Love this so much. So this is the width. So you can see it's a really nice width, and then it's longer going down. But you know, it's your blanket. Do with it as you wish. In terms of size, it's entirely up to you. And in terms of yarns, I just wanted this to look like a beautiful patchwork, random blanket, you know, that you would see on a cosy bed in Pooh Bear's house, for example, because our theme for Summer of Stitching is 100 Acre Wood.
So this is the
100 Acre Blanket.
Hence, 100 Acre Blanket reveal.
So it's the 100 Acre Blanket, and although, as I said before, that although our theme is, you know, it's Pooh Bear and all his Tigger and Piglet and 100 Acre Wood and all of that sort of environment that they live in, this is not themed, obviously, on Pooh Bear. It's just, you know, a blanket. But the point is, I've called it the 100 Acre Blanket because, to me, this is exactly the sort of blanket that Pooh Bear and Tigger and Piglet and Eeyore would love to have in their house, and they would drag it out and they'd have picnics on it and they would put it on their beds and they'd make tents and they'd use it in there, and it's that sort of a feel, you know. I wanted it to have that cosy, very sort of Little House on the Prairie as well, that kind of vibe, like it's something that's been put together with every little bit of yarn that you've got. I haven't been restrictive on the colours I've used. It's all hand-dyed yarn and it's all superwash yarn. But other than that, I've used every colour in the rainbow. And I think that just makes it look so patchworky and cosy and just perfect. So yeah, you can see it's a finished almost blanket. I'm on the third, I was just about to start the third border.
I mean, in essence, it's a completely reimagined Mitre Square blanket.
It's a completely reimagined Mitre Square blanket.
Where you've gone into every single element and perfected it, and then you're going to share it in these tutorials. Yes,
you'll get the full written pattern. And there's, I believe, 9 video tutorials that will then
release through
the month of June. You'll get those sort of gradually, the video tutorials, and you can start your own. I mean, whether you choose to do a little swatch first. I also made, I love this little one. Look, I made a little coaster. Smaller size squares, obviously, but this is one of the trial squares. I did a couple of these until I got the joins as I wanted them. You can see they're really square, and I've been using this for months as a little coaster. So it might be that you don't want to make a blanket. You know, all these thoughts have gone through my head during the past 15 months. You know, people might not want to make a blanket, and that's fair enough. You could make a bunch of little coasters. You could make mug rugs. This one's a bit bigger. You could make a cushion cover and do it that way. There's lots of different options. And then another thing that crossed my mind is people might say, oh gosh, starting a blanket in summer, that's just crazy. But actually, it's the best time because it'll be small all through the summer. It's not going to be very big. It'll be portable. You can stick it in a project bag, bung in a few yarns. You can take it on holiday with you, and it will be portable and not very big during those warmer months, and then as it grows you'll be heading into the colder months. So I think it's the right time to be starting a blanket. It may be you've never done a Mitre Square blanket, so again, perfect time to start that. So yeah, how exciting. That's it. I mean, that's the border there that you can see I've done. I just chose a grey, and I'm just about to start. That's where I started it there. I'm on the third side now, so I'm going to get the borders finished. All the ends are woven in on the back because I've woven in as I've gone. Full video tutorials on how to do that. You know, everything is in literally. I thought, right, as I was knitting this, I wrote down every little thing that I did. I wanted to, first of all, I wanted to give everybody the answers to questions they might ask me, because I know the types of questions that I get asked. So I thought if I give you all that information, then that saves you having to ask. So yeah, I literally wrote down everything I was doing. I swatched and did another swatch before I started this large, you know, the proper blanket. And it's been a joy, honestly, it's been a joy to create another one. And I'm so pleased that I did a full size, huge blanket, And we're going to, I'm not going to give too much away as to filming and things like that.
There is the gorgeous blanket.
Yes.
That's going to be the centrepiece to the Summer of Stitching.
Yes.
And the filming of this year's Summer of Stitching will be the most adventurous that we've ever...
It will.
It's going to be...
Here, look at the... Oh, it's so lovely.
If you've seen our advent calendar before, it will be in a similar vein.
It is sort of similar to that.
Yes.
Yeah, it is sort of similar to that. And, if you're looking at this thinking, I'm not a patron, I'd love to get the blanket, then, sign up as a new patron and just stay with us through the summer.
Silver, gold and platinum.
Yes, sorry, silver, gold and platinum. If you wanted to experience the whole sort of Summer of Stitching, because not only are we doing the blanket, we're also going to be making a project bag to keep the blanket in, and it's a new type of bag. I haven't made one like this before, so I've designed a whole different bag. We're going to sew that together with, again, a full set of tutorials, and then we're going to finish off with some really relaxing and sweet slow stitching, some hand stitching, just to finish everything off. So very exciting summer ahead.
Well, look, that's what I call a pick of the projects. I mean, just
Yes.
spectacular. This summer is going to be unbelievably special, so please do come and join us.
Yes.
And let's keep the excitement rolling because, oh yes, it's time for Kay Jones. What's off your needles?
Well, keeping on the sock theme,
Ooh,
I've got another pair of finished socks.
and the ice cream theme.
Oh, I love these. So yeah, I finished the lemon top socks. Look at these. Oh, aren't they lovely?
And these are, of course, inspired by the wonderful lemon top ice cream.
Lemon top ice cream, which we subsequently found out when we spoke about these that a lot of people hadn't heard of, even in this country.
So it's vanilla ice cream
Yes.
with a lemon sorbet type thing on the top.
Yeah.
More of a sauce than a sorbet.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like somewhere in between. And you made your own, and here it is.
I did.
To go with the pattern pictures.
It was quite hilarious.
Completely delicious.
Yeah, it was fun doing that.
And it really does. The piping.
Yeah,
It totally looks
it does look. So these are a textured pair of socks, as you can see, and they've got like a lovely swirly pattern that runs down them. And I used this yarn. It was Yarn Smith's Merino sock. So this is from Wool Warehouse. And this colour is Duckling. Just perfect for lemon socks. And this is a platinum design. So this one is the June platinum design. This will be going out to all of our eligible patrons on the 1st of June. You can all knit your own lemon top socks and maybe have a little lemon top homemade ice cream.
All you need to do is just get some vanilla ice cream and also some lemon sorbet, and just dump a bit of lemon sorbet on the top, and that's as good as you're going to get.
That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
If you want to be extravagant, pop in a little flake on the top
If you want
as
to be really extravagant, take the sorbet out early, put it into a piping machine, and pipe it onto the top of the vanilla ice cream.
I don't recommend that.
You'll have fun. If you do, if you've got grandchildren or children,
I had to set everything up for the photo, and then just like get the ice cream. Everything was melting. It was hilarious.
You'd need to keep it in a nitrogen bath or something to keep it.
Yeah, I do. You're right. Yeah, it was fun though. It was fun. And a beautiful pair of socks.
Yes.
Another one for my sock stash. I love these.
And these are, of course, as you mentioned, it's the Platinum Collection.
Yes.
So it's 4 patterns a year. It's always completely exclusive.
The Platinum patterns are always exclusive. I won't ever release those
Most
ones.
recent 4 pairs available to Gold and Platinum patrons, and the full collection, which is well over 20 patterns now, is available to our Platinum patrons. Hence, Platinum Collection.
And I loved the yarn. I really liked working with the yarn. My gauge was slightly different. I had to knit the leg a little bit, the foot, a little bit longer than I normally do. So I think my row gauge must have been tighter.
Oh, no.
I think I had to do 4 rounds more than I would normally do to get the same length. So just a slightly tighter row gauge, but otherwise absolutely lovely yarn, washed up. Lovely, beautiful. Such a gorgeous spring colour, aren't they? Love them.
And that is, of course, another cast-off
Yes.
To add to your list.
How many have I got? Oh, but don't forget the short and sweet ones earlier.
I added them on, Kay.
Oh, you added them on. Right, okay. By the power of
Grayskull.
Oh, I loved that.
Not the film.
No,
Not so fond of the film.
Cartoon.
Yeah, I loved the
I didn't know
cartoon
there was
as
a film.
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and also, I think Frank Langella is.
I don't know him.
You do?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've seen him in lots of things.
The cartoon, though, I loved.
Yeah, it's cool.
Did he have like a lion or a tiger or something?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But then I always felt that Thundercats was like built off the success of He-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was more of a He-Man person.
Thundercats.
See, I didn't quite like
full on 80s guitar going on underneath.
Yeah. Oh, don't make them anymore like they used to.
No.
Let's face it.
You must have been able to get the toys as well. I never got the toys.
I would have thought. It was boyish, that, for me. I did like watching it, but I wouldn't have got a action figure.
Transformers. I remember having Transformers.
Robots in disguise.
Yeah. But the things that I liked the most, actually, and it was before Transformers, was a program called Mask.
Oh, I don't know.
And that was it was a bit like Transformers, but not. So it was things that turned into something else. So it was a Jeep that turned into a speedboat.
Oh, right.
A bike that turned into a helicopter.
Oh.
And
so it's a bit like Transformers. Didn't they do that? Were they like
they weren't alive?
Were they lorries? No.
Well, Transformers were basically everything.
Oh, okay.
The stupidest one of all the Transformers. Honestly, this is true. There was a Transformer that was a cassette tape.
What?
I know. I promise you.
But cassette tape can't be alive.
It was a robot. So it could turn into a robot that was alive. There was also a Transformer that was a gun. It was completely insane.
It's a very random program.
Of course, none of these Transformers made their way into the film. At least I don't think so. There's been that many of the films.
I don't
anyway,
imagine they would.
Look, that was a Transformers digression.
Yes.
Never thought we'd have one of those. Forget all of that. Gorgeous finished object.
Yes.
Completely wonderful and available free of charge to Gold and Platinum patrons on the 1st of June.
Yeah.
Look, it's time to get downstairs and walk in the footsteps of Mr. Carson.
Oh, you're going to love it.
As we return for more
the best
Britain,
thing.
The Stately Era.
Welcome back to Britain, the stately era. Now, I think it's fair to say that Great Britain is renowned for its stately homes, from Lyme Park to Chatsworth, and so many more beyond. One house stands shoulder to shoulder with the greats, and it's the perfect place for us to continue our story of the stately era. This is it. Welcome to Harewood House. And if you think it looks familiar, that's because it was one of the key locations in the first Downton Abbey movie. This spectacular building was constructed in 1738, and it was designed by the best in the business. York-born architect John Carr designed the building, Thomas Chippendale provided the furnishings, and Capability Brown created the gardens. Over the centuries, it's been added to reflect the tastes and needs of the time. It's been a stately home, a royal household, and twice a wartime convalescent home. Today, it's a charitable trust run for the benefit of the public, and it is without doubt one of Yorkshire's most vibrant stately homes. Let's get inside and have an explore.
century took flight, Baroque houses like we saw at Benningborough went out of fashion. This was the time of the Palladian house, and Harewood is a perfect example. Palladian architecture is inspired by the works of an architect called Andreas Palladio, and its most defining feature was the facade which we see in front of us. Refined horizontal blocks with temple-like centerpieces were the order of the day. Its beauty lay in its strict adherence to the rules of proportion. Decoration was limited to the carvings along the cornice and the top of the columns. In our last episode, we discovered that one of the first rooms to appear beyond the Great Hall was the bedroom. This is Harewood's East bedroom, and it's decorated with 250-year-old Chinese wallpaper. The furniture you can see was designed specifically by Thomas Chippendale to match it. As the years progressed, a dressing room was placed next door to the bedroom. This example was built for a past lady of the house, King George V's daughter, Princess Mary. Mary loved gardening, so the room is covered with flower motifs. We can see there a depiction of Flora, the Roman goddess of flowers. As the bedroom appeared, the Great Chamber became known as the withdrawing room. You and I know this today as the drawing room, and the one at Harewood is rather special. The drawing room was a private sitting room where the owner kept their most personal belongings. This is an intimate space with a lower ceiling, and it became popular with the woman of the house. This yellow drawing room is named after the colour of the damask on its walls. Whilst it's been redecorated many times and once used as a billiard room, today it has been returned to its original state, and isn't it spectacular? You can see completely why, as the men smoked and drank in the dining room, the ladies withdrew here. And if you have ever hung a mirror over your fireplace, this was the room where that fashion began. As stately homes developed, intimate spaces were becoming more and more popular. So a house as big as Harewood needed a second drawing room, and this is it. Originally, it was decorated in white damask and filled with mirrors. Over time, those mirrors have been replaced with portraits. The furniture in this room was purchased some years after the house's construction, so Thomas Chippendale Jr. was employed to build it. It's celebrated for its unusual two-tone gilding. Many country houses include a long gallery designed specifically for the nobility to get out of the inclement British weather. The first appeared in the 16th century and were installed in castles. Traditionally, they're installed along the longest side of the house. This one at Harewood is a little bit different, as it's along one of the shorter sides. They were used for exercise, and people would promenade backwards and forwards whilst enjoying the views of the garden. The use of it slowly died out though, and by the Victorian age, most had become picture galleries like this one. Once again, the furniture here was supplied by Thomas Chippendale Jr., who'd created finishes which look particularly spectacular at night when lit by hundreds of flickering candles. Those days might be gone, but we can still appreciate, I think, the beauty of his work. So we've seen a little of life upstairs, but what of downstairs? Harewood offers something I've never seen before, and that's access to their original kitchens. As we make our way downstairs, it's easy to imagine the bustle which would once have filled these corridors. When beckoned from above by this fantastic bell system, the support staff would spring into action. As the stately era began, this was largely a male-dominated workforce, but as the Victorian period began, it was actually becoming difficult to retain staff as they all went off to work in factories, so women started to take a more prominent role. This was the moment the lady of the house became increasingly involved in the running of the kitchen, the engine room for the whole house. Run by the butler, supported by the housekeeper and a loyal team, they worked across a range of rooms. Harewood once had a bakehouse for the making of bread, cakes and biscuits. Confectionery sweets and tarts were made in the pastry room. There was even a still room overseen by the housekeeper. It produced cordial waters, perfumes and medicines from flowers and herbs normally picked in the garden. By the Victorian era, when this kitchen dates from, it was also making polishes, waxes and soaps. As we leave the kitchen behind, we find one of the most important ancillary rooms. This is the vegetable scullery, and it takes its name from the Latin word scutella, meaning dish. It was used for tasks like peeling, chopping and washing vegetables. Sinks were positioned under the window so those washing up had the best light to make sure everything was clean. Now, as you can see, Harewood House is absolutely wonderful, but the gardens are also just tremendous.
Now, outdoor spaces have actually always been there, even in the time of castles, but it wasn't until around about Elizabeth I's reign as Queen in England that gardens as we know them first started to appear. Houses like this are actually cheaper to build than castles, so now you could afford to invest in opulence, and that meant a lovely garden.
As the year 1654 dawned, manicured lawns, arbours, extensive flower beds, even box hedging started to appear. As the years progressed, gardens began to spread further around the stately home, with arrangements of high-clipped hedges in geometric patterns called a wilderness laid out for walking through. As Harewood was being built, landscape gardening was just coming into fashion. Inspired by classical scenes from ancient Rome, garden designers would try and make these scenes real.
The most famous was Lancelot Brown, who created the gardens here. When he visited a client, he would tell them that their garden had capabilities and that he was the man to enable them. He used the phrase so much, he became known as Capability Brown.
Capability Brown loved vast expanses of parkland with the house set in the centre. Most houses at this time were surrounded by the houses of their estate workers and the fields which they used to feed themselves. Many of Capability Brown's most famous designs led to a complete scene change, as those estate houses and fields were moved far away from their stately homes. Whilst this didn't happen at Harewood, it did here at Castle Howard. Once the ancient village of Henderskelf lay in the land around the house. But in 1699, Capability Brown's garden design for the new Castle Howard led to the village being completely demolished. What's left is gently rolling parkland with clumps of trees and a large lake. But despite the changes, if you look closely when you visit, there's a chance you might just see the faint banks and ditches that once marked the original homes and fields of the community who once lived there. But right now, the year is 1654, and Oliver Cromwell is making enemies everywhere. He's taxing the great and the good as much as he possibly can. He's alienated the Church of England. And to make matters worse, Anna Trapnell is now touring southern England, undermining the very laws that Cromwell has introduced. Cromwell's protectorate would not tolerate anyone criticising them. Anna was arrested and placed in Bridewell Prison, a truly desolate place. Held for months, with no mention of an actual trial, she was eventually set free. While she'd started out as a young lady expressing her religious beliefs, now she became an agitator against the new regime. Anna openly stated to all who would listen that Cromwell's protectorate and the old monarchy were one in the same, and that nothing had in fact changed. Just over the sea, though, where Cromwell's actions had proved so appalling and divisive in Ireland, things were in fact starting to improve. The relentless war on Ireland had come to an end in 1652. 500,000 people had died, and in the words of an Irish poet, it was the war that finished Ireland. The remaining Irish were now penned into the west, with the English inhabiting the rest of the country. It was disgraceful behaviour by Cromwell's new model army, driven by their devout puritanical beliefs. Ireland was now surveyed and mapped, the first time that this had been done in any European country other than Sweden. Sadly, it was done to discover exactly what was there, so it could be redistributed to English soldiers. Most English Protestants thought the behaviour of the military men now ruling Ireland to be despicable. Perhaps realising the mess he'd created, Cromwell now placed his son Henry in charge of Ireland to finish the job he'd started. Henry Cromwell was everything his father wasn't. He had the balance and pragmatism of a great leader. He realised the introduction of major generals in England was dangerous. In Ireland, he adopted a completely different approach. He even arranged for trade routes to be reopened. Irish produce was at last being traded globally again. The plan to forcibly move the Irish population from their land was also abolished. Many remained where they'd always been, now as tenants on land that had once been theirs, so it was hardly an ideal situation. But Henry Cromwell was certainly making a much better go of running a country than his father was back in England. Living in England at this time would have been a little bit like Rome in the time of Julius Caesar, another dictator. And just like Caesar, Cromwell was dealing with constant assassination attempts. And it's no surprise, is it really, when you consider so many of his actions. So Parliament brought forward a bill to reintroduce the monarchy, and they wanted Oliver Cromwell to accept the position as king. The country needed a king, and it needed a House of Lords. But how could Cromwell possibly accept the position and desert the only men loyal to him, the new model army? It also seems odd, doesn't it, too, that if the MPs were that sick of Cromwell's rule as a dictator, why would they now want to make him king? And don't get me wrong, when this bill was put forward before Parliament, loads of MPs spoke vehemently against it. But the members of Parliament quickly realised that this move would actually curtail Cromwell's power. With the return of a House of Lords, whilst the office of king sounded grand, it was a return to actual laws with real consequences. The days of absolute power were coming to an end. In a way, it was perhaps a masterstroke, because half the country didn't want rid of the monarchy in the first place, and it might just bring the country together. Perhaps if a king just reappeared, or a queen for that matter, the problems of the country would just melt away. The question was now, would Cromwell accept? And we'll discover that when I see you next time. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time with more Britain, the Stately Era. back to York, everyone. Today we're going to be visiting something every aristocrat needed, the chic townhouse. But in the 1980s, it was bought by York Civic Trust. The years of history were peeled back and its former grandeur was revealed. And I can't wait to get inside to take a look.
What a home!
Did you love it?
What a story. Do you know what? I loved learning about Capability Brown because I didn't know
What a dude.
the things that, you know, the research for that particular episode, finding out. But the thing that surprised me the most with Capability Brown was it was him who moved the houses that were always around the stately homes away. So it
Didn't want any of those obscuring the view.
That's exactly what he wanted. He wanted like lush, beautiful land, all landscaped with the house set in the middle. And whilst it's beautiful, it is a real shame that those communities got shifted. Now, you can see, actually, in many cases, they did look after the people who lived there.
They moved the village, didn't they? And the people moved.
Not always.
Oh,
Not
right.
always. So it depended on the lord of the manor.
Right.
If the lord of the manor wasn't a particularly nice chap, then quite often people were just evicted. But, for example, Castle Howard, that we visited the last advent calendar, we actually stayed in the village that they built.
We did, yeah.
So
It's beautiful.
quite a lot of the people who lived in Henderskelf moved to that village. But yeah, I mean, I had no idea that Capability... To me, going to see a stately home, growing up, oh, well, this is what they were like. But no, that wasn't the case at all. What a dude, though. Yes, your house has capabilities, and I'm the man to help you see them. I love it.
Hence the name.
He's Capability Brown.
Amazing.
So...
I loved all that downstairs
Oh, it's very cool.
stuff. I mean, that kitchen was amazing, wasn't it?
Yes.
You can just imagine it bustling with people and steam and cooking things on the range and marvellous. And I loved the scullery.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'd happily be in there chopping vegetables.
Yeah.
And I think I would have fit in well at Downton Abbey. I'd have been very happy in a little housemaid's uniform.
And things like, you know, the sinks under the windows,
Under the windows.
so you can see what you're doing.
Who knew?
It's all those clever
That's
things.
why we all have sinks under our windows
Yeah, I
in the
know.
kitchen. I
I
can't
know.
imagine a sink not under a window.
No, I know.
Can you?
I know.
Does anybody have a sink in their kitchen that's not under a window? Unless you're in a flat.
But also as
But
well,
even then it might be under a window.
I think it was in the last episode, or was it this episode, where it was the French fashion for putting a mirror over the fireplace that then came into the stately home.
Yeah.
It was introduced in the drawing room, and then now everyone has a mirror over their fireplace.
Well, everyone used to.
Now,
Everyone now has TVs. Don't even start me on the TV on the wall business. I've got a real problem with it, and I know everybody does it. I'm really sorry.
It's just odd, isn't it?
I've just got a real issue with it.
Yeah. Let's get mirrors back over our fireplaces.
Have a smaller TV, people, and put mirrors
Look,
over your fireplace.
Look, the stately era will return on the 23rd of May because next time Kay returns with more My Perfect Socks.
And I've chosen the colour I'm doing, and it's really lovely.
And right now, it's time for the Endy Bits.
Endy Bits.
Kay's bought some yarn from Eden Cottage.
So I did, right? Can you remember last year, as part of my sock stash, I knit this pair of socks. They're looking a bit worse for wear because I've worn them so much, and they do need to go in the washer. But, you know, it's reality, isn't it? I knit this pair of socks. Can you remember them? So this pink yarn is Eden Cottage yarns, and it's Milburn 4-ply. And then I added in a bit of leftover, of Yule Ball, which is London House yarns. And I've got a full skein up here. Still haven't been able to break into the full skein. But I've got these ones. And out of all of the socks that I knit last year, and I knit 12 pairs, these are my favourite. Yeah. And it's for a number of reasons. One, the yarn is lovely. I enjoyed knitting these. I think I knit these on DPNs from memory, so I might knit these this next pair on DPNs as well. But I just love that funky stripy bit on the foot. It's really fun when, when you wear a sock, it's different, isn't it, to having just looked at it when you've knit it. Because you put them on your feet and then you see the funky stripes across your foot and it's just really fun. But the yarn itself, the Eden Cottage, is really nice. It's not designed as a sock yarn, so I've got it here. I bought 4 balls actually. They come in 50-gram balls because what I want to do, I want to knit another pair of socks sort of similar to this, but I want to create stripes down here with the yarns that I've bought, and I think I might add a little bit of stripe into the cuff as well. I think that might be fun. So I got 4 colours that are kind of like neutrally sort of colours. These are the 4 that I got. Really pretty. I'll tell you the shades. So I got Wicker, which has got a slight pinkish hue to it, I think. That's Wicker. I've got Rain, lovely silvery grey. I've got Steel, which is a sort of brownish grey. And then Compost. Oh, I like that. Compost, which is a nice sort of earthy brown. And this yarn, so it comes in these sweet little 50-gram balls, and it's 85% Blueface Leicester, 15% silk. Silk is nature's nylon, isn't it? And Blueface Leicester is really hard wearing as well. So it just struck me that these would be great for socks, and they have been. I love these. I try not to wear them too much because I don't want them to wear out, but they've been in the wash as well about, I don't know how many times, 4 or 5 probably. Always come out lovely. I don't tumble dry any of my socks. They go on a 30-degree short wash and then I just, lay them out to dry. I don't put them in the tumble dryer. I think that's just asking for trouble. Yeah, so it's 50 grams, 200 metres, and they've worked out lovely. So I thought, what I'm going to do, I think I will use this. I think I'll use the Compost as the main colour, and then I'm going to stripe the other 3 in some way. And that's just going to be such a fun pair of socks, I think. So I'm looking forward to starting those. I need to clear my needles a little bit so that I can start those and those DK socks that I mentioned earlier. But I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback because I think it's nice to know how things have fared. You see things fresh off the needles, don't you? And then it's like, whatever happened to those? Were they nice to wear? Did they wash well? So the answer to this yarn is, I love it. It's really good. So Milburn 4-ply Eden Cottage, if you fancy giving it a go.
And you get an answer to many more yarns in exactly the same format in our extended reviews that we do for patrons.
I can waffle on a long time.
No, it's true. we do. Normally now, when we do an extended review, it's on the needles and off the needles.
Yes.
And, that is where we do talk a lot about how things have worn.
We do.
You've also made, over the years, a number of how socks wear. I think you've made a couple, actually, of how socks wear videos where you've looked at a range of socks.
Yeah.
Looked at how they've worn.
But this yarn I really like.
Cool. Did you hear our last radio show? We were talking about our garden. If you enjoyed that episode and you'd like to see how things are doing actually, then don't miss our next patron-only show when we'll do a little fly over the garden and Kay'll tell you what everything is, and we'll talk about how things are going, which is going to be fun. That show is coming up this Sunday. That is the 27th of April, and it'll be live for Silver, Gold and Platinum patrons at 2 p.m. British summertime. But of course, we know we've got patrons all over the world, so you can watch anytime you like after 3:20 British summertime on the 27th of April.
And I'm going to be talking about the Summer of Stitching blanket.
Yes, exactly. Well. There'll be opportunities for you to ask live questions.
Yeah, I can be fully finished by then. I'm going to finish the border the next couple of days.
Cool. That's it, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, yes.
What a lovely episode.
As usual,
Thanks,
every Tuesday
everybody.
and Thursday there will be reviews and tutorials, and just take that as read. That always happens.
Yeah.
But for now, that's it with the video show, and we'll see you in 2 weeks with a brand new one.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. No.
You know, that was good. That's good. This is Dance No Pointing.
In the Civil War, now had been where anything seemed possible.
Dry those pubes. Dry those pubes.
No, you did something before that was quite cool. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
that their garden had capabilities and that he was the man to enable them. A protectorate, but rest in probably didn't catch much of that, but hey ho, do it again anyway.
Throw the fishy away and it come back to me.
The land of opportunity, which so many have